Alright, so right now leaders are passing out some sheets of paper and pens because note takers are history makers. That's right. Note takers are history makers, and so encourage you guys to take notes on those. Like Avery said, phones should be in the pocket. Phones should not be coming out, otherwise leaders probably can tap in the shoulder. Also, should be bothering people around you. Those notes are not for doodling or drawing, as amazing of artists as we know you are. Know that we're taking notes. So a good rule of thumb is if it's on the screen, you probably should be writing it down because note takers are history makers. That's right. That's right. All right. So let's kick things off with a subject everyone is really into right now in 2018. You guys ready for this? Terms and conditions. Yeah, you guys ever heard those before? Terms and conditions? Actually, they've probably never been on your mind before, but you've definitely seen them. Well, sort of. You might not have been aware of it when you saw it. Do you guys know when you are downloading an app on your phone or on your computer and a pop-up pops up on your screen and it says to, if you want to read through it or whatever, you have to click agree, right? That's it. Terms and conditions. That's what that is. Now, do you actually read the terms and conditions?
Yes.
No. Just like everybody else, what do? You click agree as quickly as possible so you can complete your download or whatever you're trying to do. Agree. Just get to the next screen. So why is that? Why does no one read terms and conditions? Well, the reason simply is that most of them are really long. They would take forever to read through, so no one reads them. For instance, Instagram's terms and conditions are 5,000 words long. Nobody has time to read that. Luckily, there was one lawyer who decided to read through all of Instagram's 5,000 words in their terms and conditions, and he decided to translate it for everybody who's not a lawyer so that we understood what actually terms and conditions actually meant for Instagram. So here's a few highlights of Instagram's terms and conditions. You guys ready for this? First one. Other people might pay us, Instagram, to use your pictures. But if we do that, we won't actually pay you, the owners of them. No, we won't pay you. And we may randomly delete your posts. What? And we can force you to give up your username for any reason. And finally, we may share your personal information with other companies. So to sum it up, Instagram sounds like a total creeper. But here's the kicker. All of those terms and conditions, all 5,000 words of those terms and conditions, they're not set in stone. They are subject to change. In other words, Instagram is telling you in their terms and conditions, okay, here's our rules. Did you read through all 5,000 words of them? Okay, great. Okay, you got it? Awesome. By the way, we reserve the right that we can change all these terms and conditions on you tomorrow. So, and that's kind of weird, right? Because Instagram made the rules, but they reserve the right to break their own rules whenever they want. They want it both ways. What? Not cool, Insta. That's what they do, though. But it's not just the terms and conditions of apps that are subject to change. You guys know this in middle school and high school. Because life is subject to change. Which is obvious when you think of it. We all have terms and conditions or expectations for what life should be like. And then one day, life completely rearranges things on you. It breaks the rules, it does the unexpected. Now, change can be good, or it can be a bad thing. You guys know what I'm talking about? Good change versus bad change. For example, now maybe a few weeks ago, you tried out for your school's team, your sports team at your school. And then a couple weeks later, maybe this week, you found out you made it. Well, then you also find out that you weren't going to be a starter. But, you know, that's a good change that you can handle. You can handle that, so that's a good change. How about this one, though? How about if you were a person that tried out for your team, made it, and then broke your leg the next week and your season was over. Now that is definitely not a great change. Good change, bad change. Or maybe you found out, how about this one? Maybe you found out that you're moving. Now maybe for you personally, maybe you love your school and you have amazing friends at your school, you feel supported and comfortable there. So then you find out you're leaving, boy, you get the change card pulled on you. What? On the flip side, maybe you're the type of person that hates your school and you don't have hardly any friends there. And so that actually would be a good change to find out that you're moving, so you get to change schools, so you get to hit the reset button. Good change, bad change. Or maybe your body went through some changes. Anybody relate to that in middle and high school? Yeah. Upside, you're taller. Bad news, acne. Right? Right? All right. You guys can relate to this. Maybe you've made one of the best friends you've ever had. Good change. Or maybe you totally lost a really good friend because of a misunderstanding and you can't seem to fix it. Bad change. Or maybe you have an awesome new dating relationship. Ooh, good change. Or maybe you just went through an awful breakup that totally blindsided you. Oh, that's a bad, bad change. Change can be awesome or awful. But either way, I think we all struggle with it for a couple of reasons. Number one, it forces us into the unknown. Moving to a new town or school, hey, that could be an awesome experience, but you don't know that yet. Changes don't arrive with a guaranteed set of terms and conditions. So until we know how things turn out, change can be pretty stressful when you're going through it. Or number two, we lose perspective. Change can be emotional. Anybody relate to that? Emotional changes, you're going through changes, it's making you emotional. Let me ask you this. Who still lives in the house that you were basically a baby in? Like you haven't moved. You still live in this house. Okay, that was me. I grew up in Wisconsin. I didn't move till I went off to Indiana to go to college. Okay, so very stable, didn't have to worry about moving on. Now raise your hand if you've moved at least once in your life. All right. Keep your hands up if you moved twice. Wow. 3 times. Wow. 4. Wow. 5. Okay. So some of you have moved a lot in your life. Okay. So it can be emotional, right, to move because you're going, I don't want to move. I got great memories in this house. It's making me cry. Just remember those great memories I had as a kid there. I don't want to move. Emotional changes, right? I hear that. So change can be emotional. In fact, if it's a big enough change, it can feel like the end of the world for you. Anybody relate? And number 3, it causes us to realize we're not in control. Now, if you think about it, we spend a lot of time and energy trying to control our outcomes. We study to make good grades. We practice our sports and our instruments. We take the right electives so that we can get into the right college. We do everything we can to avoid arguments with friends and family, all with the goal of trying to control our outcomes. Although we never really have control of our lives, we feel it more deeply when we're going through seasons of change. Since all of us are subject to change at some point, we're all subject to realize that we can't make everything fit perfectly into a nice little box. So the question we need to tackle isn't how do we avoid change? Because change is happening, whether you're ready for it or not. The real question is this. How can we make it through change? That's what we're going to talk about tonight. Unfortunately, the Bible has some things to say about this very question. And what the Bible says can actually comfort and carry us through anything life throws at us. But before we get there, let's get some background and context into the scripture that we're going to be looking at tonight. Thousands of years ago, God chose a group of people called the Israelites to be His people, His chosen people. And although God is perfect, the Jewish people obviously couldn't behave perfectly. Despite that, God still wanted them to live differently than every other people group in the world. So He gave them a set of laws on how to live great lives while setting themselves apart from everyone else around them. It started with 10 rules, or 10 commandments, you've heard of these, given to Moses. But then it eventually became 613 laws that the Jewish people were to follow to set themselves apart from everyone else. Yeah, that's a lot of laws. And they had laws for everything. Laws on what they could eat and what they could not eat. What they could wear and what they couldn't wear. Laws on how they were specifically supposed to worship God. It's crazy, right? Now, some of these rules for worship stated that only certain people could enter the inner part of the temple, which was basically like their church. And only a smaller elite group could actually go into what was known as the Holy of Holies to actually experience God's presence. So the rules for worship were rigid, to say the least. Fast forward a few centuries to when something revolutionary happened. God entered the world as a human. Jesus was born in Bethlehem as God with skin on. And He shared the amazing truth that His love wasn't just for the Jewish people anymore, but for the whole world. And then, after being put to death and demonstrating just how great His love for you was, Jesus came back to life. And when Jesus defeated death, it changed everything. It was the game-changing, history-defining moment in the world. But then Jesus left the world and went back to heaven. And once life returned to somewhat normal, the Jewish people who had become followers of Jesus were shaken up. Their religion, which they had faithfully practiced every day for generations, went from following 613 laws to one relationship. Did God's laws have some terms and conditions? Were these rules subject to change? So 2,000 years ago, to say the first century Jewish Christians had some concerns, that would be an understatement. So a letter was sent to address them. It's called Hebrews. It was written 2,000 years ago to people who were Jewish who became followers of Jesus. Now, we're not sure who wrote the book of Hebrews, but it's clear that the author had a deep understanding of God's plan for His people and mankind. As the letter is ending and the author is writing his final thoughts, he makes this statement in Hebrews 13. You can follow on the screen. It says this: don't love money. Be satisfied with what you have. For God has said, I will never fail you. I will never abandon you. It may seem a little bit weird for us to hear now, 2,000 years later, but being a Jewish Jesus follower back then wasn't easy. When you lived in the Roman Empire 2,000 years ago and you became a Christian, a Jesus follower, one of those moments of your conversion meant that you were in danger of losing your property, your money, and yes, maybe even your life. You lose everything. But even with the scary threat of potential change like this, the author of Hebrews reminds Jewish believers of something they already knew because they've been taught it since they were kids. That God would never abandon or fail them. Basically, the writer is saying, hey, a lot is changing. I get that. But God's character has not changed at all. The writer continues in verse 8, a few verses later, and he makes a similar statement that I think could help all of us when we're facing a life that is subject to change. He said this, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. In other words, even though Jesus had changed the game, Jesus himself had not changed. He was the representation of the same God they had been following since they first encountered him. Sure, the way they lived and worshipped was definitely changing in a major way. Instead of following hundreds of rules, they were now following one person, Jesus. So that meant changes in how they worshipped God, as in no more rules about who could go where in the temple. Experiencing God, well, His Spirit was now available to everyone. What about sacrifices? Big change there. In one move, Jesus became the singular permanent sacrifice for everyone's sin. So that meant there was no more need for innocent animals to die like they did in the old system. So I would say these are better changes for sure. How many animal lovers we got out there like myself? I'm an animal lover. You guys animal lovers? Anybody out there? Yeah. How happy are you guys that we don't have to bring innocent animals to church and slaughter them here at the front of the stage to cover your sins? Yeah, that's a good change. Good change. Now to us these changes seem awesome, but to the Jewish people at the time, 2,000 years ago, they were very unsettling. Remember, in the middle of change, you have no clue how things are going to turn out. Same was true of the Hebrews 2,000 years ago, the Jewish followers of Jesus. They didn't know how these changes were going to turn out. This was going to be such a great change, the way that Jesus set up this new system. That's why the writer of Hebrews reminds Jewish believers that even though a lot was changing, they could trust that Jesus himself does not change. Jesus was not some random guy showing up to break their loved system. He was the same God who was present when that system was created. That's a big deal because they had a history with God. They'd experienced ups and downs with God. They had experienced God's faithfulness through tough times in their past. The same God they or their ancestors had treated in the past was the same God they could trust now. Their circumstances had changed, but God's character had not changed one bit. They hopefully learned something huge, something that applies to us 2,000 years later. That's our bottom line tonight. Check it out. Life changes. God doesn't. Life changes, but God doesn't. Say that to your neighbor. Life changes, God doesn't.
Life changes, God doesn't.
That's going to be an easy bottom line for you guys to remember this week. Go ahead and write it down. If you haven't already, write it down. Mom and Dad asked you what you learned at church tonight. There it is. That's your bottom line. If you don't remember anything else tonight, remember the bottom line. Life changes, but God doesn't. Just think about how freeing that is. Because while everything around you is subject to change, it makes you feel out of control. You guys, get this, all eyes up here. You guys can walk with the one who is in control of everything. The creator of the universe, that holds the universe in his hands. You can walk with him. Despite how chaotic your world seems, you can walk with the one who is actually in control of everything. And that's free. Jesus is a friend who never changes. He was good thousands of years ago, and he's still good today. Your circumstances will change, but God's character never will. Let's give you guys a practical next step here to apply this message to your life this week. So if you're going through change right now, you're going, my world seems out of control, what do I do, Pastor Adam? Here it is. The best way to remember this truth is to keep it in front of you. And I literally mean keep it in front of you. Here's what I mean. If any of you have ever done ballet, anybody ever done ballet in here? Oh, wow. I actually thought we weren't going to have anybody. So, okay, so we got some ballet experts in here. So, for those of you who don't know ballet, like me, I'm not going to demonstrate here, but they do a lot of cool things. But they do amazing pirouettes, and they can do this incredible. They have incredibly strong feet where they can actually like spin on their toes. It's incredible. I can't. So what they do, has anybody ever seen on TV, or maybe you've gone to the Nutcracker or something like that? Have you ever seen like women twirling on the stage? Like, it's crazy, on their toes. And you're like, I'm getting dizzy watching them. How are they not wiping out? What are they doing? So they have this trick that they're taught. And what it is when they're spinning, they're not focusing on everything twirling around them. What they do is they'll focus on one thing on the back wall. So for instance, if I was to do it, which I'm not, I would focus on the microwave back there. Okay, so as I'm spinning, all right, as I'm spinning around, that's all I'm going to do. So as I'm spinning around, I'm focusing on the microwave. Every time I come around, I'm focusing on that. So I'm focusing on one singular item that's not moving. Well, everything around me is spinning super fast and it makes you super dizzy if you try to look at everything. But you can actually keep your balance if you focus on one thing as you're spinning around. So this focus keeps ballerinas balanced in the right direction. The same is true of an ice skater. You guys ever watch the Winter Olympics? Yeah, I'm a Winter Olympics fan. You ever watch the figure skating? When they do those incredible spins that are a lot faster than even ballerinas can do? And you're like, I am definitely getting dizzy just watching them on TV. How in the world do they not throw up right there on the ice? I mean, how does that happen? They have the same concept. Even though they're spinning a lot faster than the ballerinas, same thing. As they're coming around, they're focusing on one thing. They're not focusing on everything blurring around them. No, they focus on that one thing as they're going around. Boom, boom, boom. And that keeps them balanced. So, they remain stable in the midst of a chaotic situation because they keep focused on one single spot that stays stable. The same concept holds true for us when we are going through change. Life moves fast, things can change quickly, which makes it incredibly easy for us to feel out of control. And when that happens, and when we shift our focus to our problems, like with the figure skater looking around and not focusing, guess what happens? We fall. Our life seems to fall apart. We feel worse. We tend to forget how God has shown up in the past in our. As a result, we lose perspective. So, in order to avoid falling on our face, it's important that we stay focused on the one who can stabilize us and keep us balanced. Just like the ballerina looking at the back wall as she's spinning. Focus on God amidst the chaos and change in your life. How do we do that? If you think back, I bet you can remember a specific time when God came through for you. I don't know what it was in your life. Maybe it was a situation where your parents were going through a major financial issue and struggle. And you prayed really hard. And God came through for your family in a major way and provided financially for you. It was a miracle. Or maybe he was there when a dating relationship of yours ended, and he helped you survive, and you thought your world was over. Maybe he's helped you calm your anxiety from time to time. Maybe he answered a really important prayer. Whatever it was, take some time to think through your past and come up with a few specific memories of how God stayed the same when life didn't. Some of you right now are already remembering. Some of you are like, man, I'm going through this right now. Think of that time when God came through for you. And focus, like the microwave, focus on that time. Once you remember that moment or time when he showed up, I want you guys to write it down, like physically write it down. So if you've already thought of it, go ahead and write it on your sheet right now. That moment where God came through for you. If you can't think of it now, keep praying about it. Maybe later tonight it'll pop in your head, maybe tomorrow at school. Write it down. And then keep it in front of you. Doing this reminds you that God has shown up in the past and will encourage you to know that he's still the same today. Write it down, put the note in a place where you'll see it daily. Like on your bathroom mirror, so when you're combing your hair in the morning, you see it. Oh yeah, that's right. I remember that's when God came through. Every day you see it. Or maybe on the inside of your locker, in the dash of your car if you drive, or in the Notes app on your phone. Whatever works for you. Put it in a place where you will see it every day. Seeing these reminders every day will help keep you seeing things clearly when life feels like it's spinning out of control. Listen, change is going to happen. Some change is going to be awesome. And sometimes it won't be. But even though life is unpredictable, we can always trust in the one who is always predictable. Life changes, our bottom line. God doesn't. He's the same loving God that he's always been. Think of some areas in your life where you can begin to lean on this reality. Maybe it's at home, school, or in a relationship. Because you can't avoid change, but you can make it through change. Because even though life changes, Jesus doesn't. Go ahead, bow your heads, close your eyes, leaders in coming front. Let's pray. Take your hands, open them in your lap, and just silently pray to God. Repeat these words. Holy Spirit, what are you saying to me? Dear Heavenly Father, I don't know what you said to each one of these students just now as they prayed that prayer. But you do, Lord. And I pray that you work your will in their lives. Lord, I pray that this message doesn't just go in one ear and out the other, but that these students apply this message to their life starting tonight, tomorrow at school, wherever it is at home. Lord, we know that these students, there's many students in here going through an incredible, unspeakable pain right now. I don't know all the details, Lord, but you do. I pray that you would be present in their life. Help these students to rely on you, not on themselves, but to rely on you, that amidst the chaos and change that these students are experiencing, they can rely on the stable presence of their Savior who never changes. I pray this week as these students are tempted and tossed by worry and distractions, and pain and suffering, chaos. I pray that they would remember this truth and that you would bring it to their lives this week. This is in Jesus' name. Alright. So we're going to transition to D groups. And so if you're new, what we do now is we take about 20 minutes to discuss the message in a small group based on grade and gender. And so we're going to have a middle school guys group. That's going to be Ben and myself. And we're going to have a high school guys group. And that's going to be Brian. Yeah, raise your hand. I'll call you Brian, Justin. We're going to go with, yeah, you guys can all be in it. Everybody. All right. So if you're a high school guy, you go with Ethan and Eric too. You guys are, just pick who you want, yeah. And so we're going to try to keep the groups a little smaller tonight, so 2 or 3 per group is fine. Per leader, that's totally fine. Ladies, where are my girls? Where's the girls at? Girls, all right. Middle school girls. We're going to, I think we're going to put them with Avery, and we're going to have them, Misty, and Deanna, you're going to take girls. So middle school girls right here, these 3. And then high school girls, we're going to either go with Emma, or Donna, or Saint? No, she's not Saint. Okay, she's in. Okay, well, she wants to stay, she can. Cool. All right, you guys are dismissed to 2 groups.
Let's go, Scotty, and take a spot.